Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
So, right now, WWE plans to host WrestleMania at the Performance Center, hosted by, of all things, The Gronk. The Gronk of all things. The Gronk. On one hand, that is oddly nice. WWE retreating to the bunker where it creates and hones stars to safeguard its future, the birthplace of the next generation, sheltering its greatest show from the storm, disregarding spectacle to bring the fans at least some facsimile of a show they're invested in. On the other hand, WWE is disregarding spectacle, and I don't know, guys, Drew winning the title to silence, we love you, Drew. Mania 36 won't have so much of what makes WrestleMania more than just a wrestling pay-per-view and more of a cultural touchstone, and just saying maybe now would be a good time to buy the t-shirt of a wrestler you really like, even if you don't get to wear it in the stands. Anyway, let's put real life aside for a while and take a loving look back at some of the greatest spectacles WWE have ever produced. Now, let's just get one thing very clear, please. This is not a list of greatest WrestleMania matches. This is a list of which WrestleManias, when taken as full shows, looking at the main card from top to bottom, which are the best. Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels at Mania 25 might have been the greatest Mania match of all time, but it sits on a show where Chris Jericho beat up a lot of old men, there was a dud of a WWE title match between Trips and Orton, and Santino Marella won the Battle Royal that was meant to celebrate 25 years of women's wrestling. So yeah. Point is, despite the branding, the very best WrestleManias aren't just moments. We might remember individual matches, but the truly special Manias, the ones that we most revisit, are the ones with variety in their spectacle, the ones that craft show-long narratives that lead an audience emotionally this way and that before building them up to a huge burst of triumph, the ones that serve as proud statements on the development and capabilities of a roster. There are few better things in this world than a really good WrestleMania, and these are the 10 greatest WrestleManias in WWE history. Honorable mention, WrestleMania 35. It's too long. God damn you, WWE. I have things to do. There's a lot of really great stuff in this Mania. Kofi Bryan, Rollins Lesnar was a surprisingly great little oddity. Becky 2 belts, hooray. But when the whole thing runs over 7 hours, including the world's saddest retirement and almost half an hour of Triple H and Batista flicking each other's piercings, then no, I'm sorry. If this show was 4 hours and trimmed out all the fat, it could legitimately be top 5. But look at me all of you. No. Number 10, WrestleMania 18. Most people remember 18 as a one-match show, and that's not entirely fair. The no DQ match with Taker and Flair was fun, mostly because it had Arn Anderson in it, which is boss. Triple H Jericho is better than you remember it being, despite the burnt-out crowd, and the through line of the Hardcore Championship changing multiple times was really fun. But yeah, it's the Rock Hogan show. But hey, if people are only going to remember one match, might as well make it one of the hottest of all time. The match itself isn't actually that much. Outside of finishes, there's about 3 moves, and one of those is twat you with belt. But like most of Hogan's Mania matches, that's not really the point. So much of the Hulkster's main event appeal was built up on people just being happy to be in the same place as him, being in a crowd who want to see him Hulk up, hit the leg drop, be part of that overwhelming sensation of getting to watch a superhero live and in person. After almost a full decade away from WWE, the crowd were just overjoyed to see this match, despite what could be fairly regarded as an otherwise middling card, and that is enough to give the whole event a sense of occasion which just about carries throughout. In that way, it's the most traditional Mania since 3. Speaking of, Number 9, WrestleMania 3. Gosh, the old WrestleManias are hard to watch, not necessarily for production values, where even with WWE's upscaling of the footage for the network, the golden era stuff still looks like it was filmed through a series of ghosts, but because generally they try and cram in more than a dozen matches on the card. Hey, that sounds like modern Manias, right? But in the olden days, they squeezed them into 3 hours. Also, most of the golden generation really didn't want to lose, so most of the old Showcase of the Immortal matches are like Billy Jack Haynes versus Hercules going 7 minutes and ending in a double countout, or Sheik and Volkov defeating the Killer Bees in 5 minutes by DQ. It's just a bit much. A lot of the old Manias have a business as usual feel, just a parade of house show matches, but even by modern sensibilities, WrestleMania 3 still exudes some spectacle. The crowd size is genuinely still blockbuster, and it truly feels like this was the first Mania that WWE tried to mirror that hype more with their own roster and less with celebrities. They're still there, but the wrestling takes center stage with high-stakes affairs like Piper versus Adrian Adonis hair versus hair, or the amazing build to Steamboat Savage, and of course the biggest money match of the golden era, Hogan versus Andre. It's still a bit of a struggle sometimes, but for cultural significance alone, this was the greatest show on earth at the time. That slam is an important landmark, and the buzz of the crowd, the anticipation for the box office wrestling rather than just pop culture pageantry, it gives the whole show a cohesive enthusiasm that the early Mania so often lacked and would struggle to replicate until the Attitude Era. Plus, it had King Kong Bundy almost killing a little person, so yeah, legacy. Number 8, WrestleMania 21. So straight off the bat, let's all agree that normally WWE is about as funny as sepsis, but I actually have a real soft spot for the Hollywood skits at Mania 21. The theme for the Mania was, hey, y'all remember movies? And the whole show was littered with dub lads putting on southpaw quality wigs and doing their best, you talking to me. Kurt Angle did When Harry Met Sally. He's the best. It's actually pretty charming because, yeah, of course wrestlers wish they were in Pulp Fiction. Of course they do. Anyway, we should probably talk about the wrestling, I guess. So this is chiefly remembered as the Mania, where an infected-looking belly button tattoo and Vanilla Ice were crowned as the two top champions, acting as a huge changing of the guard. Yes, said WWE, these two for the next 5 years. Considering that seismic shift, actually, neither of the two world title matches lived up to their historical significance. Cena JBL was a bit slight in a match that only just went 10 minutes. Triple H Batista went the other way, being quite a plodding 20-minute affair. Gosh, Trips and Batista like to do those. However, to answer the question, well, why is this on the list? The answer, because the undercard was absolutely fantastic. Had the two mains been better, we'd be mentioning this Mania as a top 3 candidate easily, because the show opened with Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero. That was great. The first ever Money in the Bank ladder match featuring one of the best spots in Mania history with Shelton running up the ladder to clothesline Jericho. Orton versus The Undertaker was the first match to properly address the streak and this huge narrative stake, and that match was also bloody wonderful. Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels was one of the genuinely top 5 Mania matches of all time. It had Piper meeting Austin for the first time. In theory, it's one of the best cards ever assembled. It just didn't quite stick the landing. Number 7, WrestleMania 10. There's something special about a Madison Square Garden WrestleMania. New York has always been WWE's spiritual home territory, from back in the days of it being WWF under Vince Sr., and MSG was its crown jewel venue. Even now, when WWE returns to the Garden, even if it's just a house show, big things tend to happen, and it's hard to argue that Mania 1, Mania 10, and Mania 20, the MSG Manias, aren't all significant offerings, though the latter is obviously downplayed today. In terms of viewing quality, Mania 1 is like watching community theatre through broken binoculars. Mania 20 is actually more boring than you remember, apart from the 2 world title matches and of course Goldie and Bork's infamous stinker, but Mania 10 still by God holds up. The show has quite a lot of new generation era bullshit wade through. Crush wrestles, that's bad. There's a mixed tag match featuring Bam Bam Bigelow and Luna Vachon versus Doink and Dink that somehow goes 6 minutes, but the show has 3 major things in its favor. Good thing number 1, the WWF Championship storyline ran from the first match and was a compelling narrative throughout the night. Lex Luger and Bret Hart had just won the Rumble through a devastating mutual cuddle and were both given championship matches at Mania. Luger would wrestle champion Yokozuna first, and whoever won that match would face Bret in the main event. Only problem was, good thing number 2, Bret was wrestling in the opening match against his brother in the peak of the greatest rivalry of that wrestling era. It was a sumptuous technical feast of a match, great psychology, amazing speed, and plenty of storytelling between the brothers. It could have easily been match of the night if not for good thing number 3, the ladder match between HBK and Razor Ramon. Really good this really good. The second ladder match in company history, but most people's first exposure to it, and it ruled. 2 matches of the year and the ultimate triumph by Bret after losing to his brother. That is more than enough to elevate this to the best Madison Square Garden Mania ever. Number 6, WrestleMania 22. What an odd Mania 22 is. It's given the tagline big time, but it's also the last Mania to be held in an arena before they started exclusively booking stadiums, so it's small time, but I guess there isn't a Peter Gabriel song for that. Undertaker faces Mark Henry in a casket match, which is okay. There's a Playboy pillow fight in the semi-main spot. It's the first Mania where the fans started to turn on Cena, which the company are not prepared for. And also Shawn Michaels kills an old man in front of 17,000 witnesses. Yeah, it's weird, but it's also fantastic. Money in the Bank is the usual frantic delight. The aforementioned Michaels-Vince match is preposterous, with HBK dropping a show-stealing elbow from the fucking rafters onto a trash can with Vince's insane leg sticking out of it. Speaking of insane, the Mick Foley-Edge hardcore match is unbelievably good. Sweet ever-loving Jesus, from the booby-trapped with barbed wire spear to the flaming table spot accompanied by Joey Styles' trademark "oh my god." I'm not gonna do it. No, I'm not going to do it. It's all wonderful. There are some fantastic title matches in here too. Before the triple threat match at Mania 2 obliterated it, the Mickie James Trish Stratus match became the standard bearer for women's wrestling at Mania for a full decade. The triple threat match for the World Heavyweight title managed to squeeze in an insane amount of stuff into 10 minutes, and the WWE title match was fun, if only to watch the Chicago crowd sink their teeth into Cena. 2006 was an odd year in WWE history. It was the year that Vince wrestled God, so it tracks that this Mania was similarly oddball, but at its peak, it's a really fun and memorable show in front of a rabid Chicago crowd, back when Mania was still small time enough for a crowd to really be a factor. And number 5, WrestleMania 24. A hugely underrated WrestleMania. This almost never gets mentioned in the same breath as some of the all-time greats, but as a card, it's fairly spotless, with the possible exception of the Playboy Lumberjill match, ending with the weird shot of Snoop Dogg macking onto Maria Kanellis. All the matches are good. Yes, even the Belfast brawl between JBL and Finlay is fine. Money in the Bank is always great, and goddamn, you really feel for Shelton Benjamin watching these things. Always involved in the match's highest spot, never winning. All the love in the world for you, gold standard. The Triple H for the WWE Championship is a lot of fun, and genuinely, the Floyd Mayweather Big Show match is brilliant because the crowd turn on the tiny, horrible millionaire and rally fully behind Big Show. It's hilarious. The main event of Edge versus Undertaker is one of the least remembered in Mania history, but it's fantastic, building up to a genuinely heart-stopping false finish after the interference of the Edgeheads, and then, of course, I'm sorry, I love you. Nature Boy Ric Flair, the kissingest man in pro wrestling history who dressed like a rich grandma expecting a gentleman caller, one of the 80s greatest draws and the life and soul of the NWA and then WCW, was retired by Shawn Michaels in one of HBK's perfect record of post-2000 WrestleMania barnstormers. Emotional, deftly booked. They actually tricked you into thinking Flair could win several times. It's a tour de force by both men and a surprisingly consistent, wonderful WrestleMania. Number 4, WrestleMania 31. If this was a list of worst built WrestleMania cards of all time, Mania 31 would be near, if not top of that list. Holy lack of anticipation, Batman. It cannot be overstated just how much everyone thought this Mania was going to be absolute chunks. The Triple H Sting build was underwhelming. Daniel Bryan was sidelined from the main event, which caused everyone to turn on Roman in his big road to WrestleMania storyline. Undertaker didn't even show up for his feud with Bray Wyatt. Every match seemed predictable. Fans were concerned. Little did anyone suspect that this was going to be one of secretly the best Manias of all time. It's also possibly the stupidest. A big silly show with big silly theatrics, whether it's Daniel Bryan and Dolph Ziggler each doing their best to end Daniel Bryan's career as quickly as possible with a battle of dueling headbutts from on top of a ladder, Triple H versus Sting turning into Mania X7's gimmick battle royal, Rusev showing up on a fucking tank like he was going to install a fascist dictatorship in the middle of WWE, as if anyone would notice, satire, and then Seth Rollins, fresh off being RKO'd so hard he burst, scampering in, kicking everyone in the advertised main event of WrestleMania in the bum, nicking the belt, and running away. However, I guess this depends on your generosity, all the matches were good. Ladder match, great. Best RKO ever. Geriatric Mania was a surprising blast. Rusev Cena delivered. The women's match was way too short, but still decent. Menacing Michael the Frightful Disciple and Bray Wyatt did their thing, and despite the crushing weight of fan scored, the main event was bonkers good, with the two men going full rage mode on each other until the heist of the century. It was the clearest example of under-promising and over-delivering in WWE history, and honestly, looking back, the only major bits of bullshit were A, Triple H winning, boo this man, and B, two spoops McKenzie wrestling in the daylight, which is a fundamental no-no. Number 3, WrestleMania 30. There's just something about the Silver Dome that brings out the best in WrestleMania, huh? It's possibly the most eventful Mania of all time. So, let's start with the sad. After a fairly bad match as a result of an accidental concussion early in the proceedings, the streak ended, a loss from which Undertaker has never fully recovered. Bray Wyatt lost, which wasn't the character ruination that some fans label it as. That came from a full year of protracted bad booking afterwards. The Shield 6-man tag was too brief to really register, and the Women's Invitational was a hot mess. Everything else, though, was pure WrestleMania wonder at its best. In terms of in-ring quality, it's not the strongest Mania by some distance, actually, but in terms of sheer emotional impact, nothing comes close to 30. Let's just say the wrong WrestleMania had a roller coaster as its mascot. The monster Daniel Bryan video package is, for my money, the best WWE have ever made, better than my way, you heard me. As much as some hated the streak ending, it remade Lesnar as a box office monster once again and was legit the most shocking moment in Mania history. Cesaro winning the first Andre the Giant Battle Royal, the only year it was treated like a big deal, was a wonderful payoff for a surge of crowd support for the Swiss Superman. For all we can say that the wrong man won, the Cena-Wyatt match was really, really good, especially on a rewatch. And then, of course, let's talk about this guy, Daniel the Bryan. Captain Planet, Dr. Kick Medicine Goat, by all accounts one of the nicest, funniest, smartest, and most vegan men to hit the industry. His wasn't just a story of a kayfabe underdog dismantling a kayfabe tyrannical authority, but of an industry-defining workhorse overcoming creative perceptions of the believability that wrestling geniuses who looked like him could overcome outmoded aesthetic tradition and truly capture the love of the crowd. Pretty much every year, WWE tries to create a headline narrative of triumph over adversity, and so often it feels forced. Not at WrestleMania 30. For once, the booker's intentions and the fans' heartfelt desires lined up perfectly, albeit by the fans slowly forcing the issue. For once, at the end of Mania 30, we all felt exactly how they actually wanted us to feel, which was happy. Number 2, WrestleMania 19. Holy shit, WrestleMania 19's good, you guys. Like, we all know what number 1 is, and yeah, fair enough, it should be. But damn, WrestleMania 19 is good. Fuck. It's like a list of matches that not only overachieved in the ring, but also carried that crucial Mania star power to elevate the whole show into something that truly felt mythic in places. There were 1 or 2 slight bum notes. Triple H and Booker T would have been a brilliant match if it hadn't had a completely tone-deaf and momentum-destroying ending. Also, Undertaker versus Albert and Big Show isn't at the top of Taker's Mania resume, but pretty much everything else on the card rules so hard. Despite physical shortcomings, Hogan versus McMahon was the most WrestleMania feeling match on the card. That's just indisputable, and oh my god, they killed each other. Grandpa death matches forever. Rock and Austin had their third in their wonderful trilogy, which also served as a beautiful in-ring goodbye to the Rattlesnake. Michaels Jericho was unreasonably good with top shelf healing from certified dick kick prick Chris Jericho. The Triple H tag match was great. Always nice to see Shelton Benjamin, hey, winning at WrestleMania. The triple threat women's match was great, with Trish taking her first major step forward on her journey to actual generation-defining wrestler. And holy shit, Angle versus Lesnar, where Lesnar managed to botch a shooting star press so hard he nearly died, and yet still ended up champion and looking like a total monster chunker. Big beef, Bork beef, Mania beef. The Attitude Era may have long been over, but in many places, this show exemplified the very best aspects of that era. The spectacle, the star power, the phenomenal mid-card. And well, speaking of the best of the Attitude Era, number 1, WrestleMania X7. Not only the greatest WrestleMania WWE has ever produced, not only the greatest pay-per-view WWE has ever produced, but possibly the greatest wrestling pay-per-view ever produced by any company. In making this list, I actually went back to rewatch it just to make sure it's as good as we remember. Folks, like Atlas himself, it still holds up. After WrestleMania 2000, the company went on something of a pay-per-view hot streak, turning out ludicrously great show after ludicrously great show. Heading into 2001, the company was the best it would ever be creatively. Royal Rumble 01 is possibly the best incarnation of that pay-per-view. No Way Out 01 is definitely the best incarnation of that pay-per-view. And then March 2001, WrestleMania X7. I don't think there's anything to say about it that's not just going over old ground. Regal Jericho, hot opener, fan favorite 1. The APA and Taz demolish right to censor in the series wrap on RTC. Great. The hardcore triple threat was a stupid amount of fun, with Kane fucking Raven through a window being the highlight of the WWF hardcore division. Guerrero versus Test is, what, the worst match of the night, but somehow also really good? Angle versus Benoit was 2 of the greatest technicians ever, wrestling in their prime for 15 fucking minutes. China pays off a months-long storyline, beating Ivory in a prestige feel-good squash. It was also the last really good memory we have of the Ninth Wonder in WWE. Shane Vince is easily the greatest soap opera match WWE ever booked. Linda's Pop, Jesus Rumbling Christ. TLC 2 was, you know, the gimmick battle royal was a genius way of cooling down the crowd whilst also being nostalgically charming. Triple H Undertaker was the best American Badass match of that entire run. Then the main event between the 2 biggest stars during wrestling's biggest boom period, which was not only anchored by a fantastic story of Austin slowly unwinding in his rabid obsession with becoming champion, but also featured one of the top 2 most iconic heel turns in the history of wrestling. God, I need a cigarette. There's a lizard part of your brain that will try and tell you, maybe I'll seem cool and interesting if I try and argue that WrestleMania X7 is not the best Mania of all time, and that is wrong. That is not a good part of you, and you must leave it behind, because this is truly as good as mainstream wrestling can get. And that is our list. Did we miss out your favorite WrestleMania? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to WrestleTalk for more news and lists. I've been Adam, and honestly, I really hope you all enjoy WrestleMania. I really hope it's good, because there's nothing like a great Mania.